Hello and welcome everyone to the finale of our campaign, the Loud and Queer Panel Discussion, conducted by XLMEC, the techfest of Government Model Engineering College, in association with Club FM radio station. We are super excited to have you all on board with us, and we have some truly amazing guests and some great discourse in store for you all. Varun, it seems that your mic is muted.
Sorry about that. But before we begin, we'd like to provide a brief overview. Planning the initiative started in March, where we decided that we really wanted to do more than just share content related to LGBTQIA during Pride Month. We really wanted to do more than just share content related to LGBTQIA during Pride Month. We genuinely wanted to learn more about the topic ourselves, help educate others, and gradually build up space within the college that is inclusive, and then aim towards society in general as well.
So the team talked to people from the queer community and conducted extensive surveys where we learned so much about how much of a role families play, how much it helps to know that you have the love and support of friends, and the extent to which students from the community can face harassment and jokes in a place like college. This led us to organize our four-part video series on Instagram, conducted by and for the student community, parents, and the queer community. We had some great guests and some truly lovely conversations.
To this, we received a large number of both positive and negative responses, but we were pleased to see that a lot of important conversations were taking place and that the student community was working consciously and continuously to raise awareness about the same. We received immense support from some of our parents as well, which is absolutely heartening.
And finally, we've all gathered here today at this discussion, which marks the end to our campaign, but just the beginning to more such initiatives. Through this medium, we hope to send out a message to the ones having difficulty accepting themselves and the ones who have, but don't get the support that they truly deserve. We want to share the stories of people who were once in their shoes, but prove that they could be anything they wanted. And for that matter, the fact that their sexuality is not their only identity, but something that accompanies and gives wings to the amazing people that they are.
Before we move on to our guests, we'd like for the audience to note that we hope to provide a safe, accepting, and non judgmental space for everyone. So do let us know if anything being said is hurtful of anyone's sentiments, potentially or otherwise. We hope to work towards being better in every way. Now, to the guests.
So, first up, we have Riya Sharma. Riya is a TEDx speaker, an LGBT plus rights youth activist, educator, and the co founder of the Jimmy Foundation, a non-profit organization aiming to raise awareness about child sexual abuse, LGBTQ rights, and animal welfare. Riya is a proud queer artist, paving the way for a better and more inclusive society. And we are delighted to hear them speak today. Welcome, Riya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. And it's really an honor to speak at and for an organization who really wants to move towards inclusivity. And I hope that, this moves beyond June and we are able to truly make a more inclusive environment. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Riya. Lovely to have you here. Next up, we have Anwesh. Anwesh Sahoo is an artist, a writer of several published articles and an engrossing blog, a model who was crowned Mr. Gay World India when he was only 20 years old, an actor and also a TEDx speaker. He was the recipient of the prestigious Troy Perry Award for Compassionate Activism, the very first Indian to be honored with this award. We are very honored to have you with us, sir. Anwesh,
having me. It's such an honor to be here, and more importantly, to be sharing this space with such wonderful, folks from the community, Riya, Adam, and I'm really glad that initiatives like these are happening in educational institutions. A lot of my work has been around creating and making sure that educational institutions, maybe schools or colleges, universities, are very, very inclusive, and very, very heartening to actually to see that there is such interest in the youth today to come out in the open and talk about this, to create a safe space to speak about coming out if one can afford to. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with all of you here, and really open to all kinds of questions. All kinds of questions, frivolous questions, good questions, bad questions.
Thank you so much, Anwesh. It's truly lovely to have you here, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say. So, for our final guest, we have Adamharry. Adam is India's first trans man pilot, a trans activist, a TEDx speaker, and an actor. So, someone who's braved the prejudices heaped on the transgender community and rose above it to reach the skies of his dreams, Adam is certainly a name the youth of our country can look towards for inspiration. And we are immensely glad to have you with us. Welcome, sir.
Firstly, thank you so much for this fabulous opportunity. I'm really glad to be a part of this discussion. And I'm so happy that nowadays colleges are conducting such gender sensitization classes and gender awareness programs. And in Kerala, many colleges are starting Q clubs as a part of making campuses inclusive. And I'm so happy about that. Let me introduce myself. I'm Adamharry. I'm a trainee pilot. Now I'm training to be a commercial pilot at Rajiv Gandhi Academy. And I'm a private pilot license holder. And I identify myself as a trans man. And I'm excited and looking forward for more discussions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam. Now that we know our speakers, let's move on to the questions. The very first question is to Riya Sharma. As someone who has been working tirelessly to create awareness about gender and sexuality at various platforms, your acceptance of yourself and your identity has been a source of great inspiration to many. What does your identity mean to you, and what do you wish the society understood about that? What helped you find courage to challenge and stand up to the gender stereotypes enforced by the society?
So thank you so much, Varun, for that question. And I feel that we need to talk more about identities. And I feel that my identity is a combination of a lot of more identities and factors. So, as you said before, being queer or being gender fluid or being lesbian does not define me as a person. My identity is much more than that. I'm an educator, I educate children, I work with the youth. So I feel that with the kind of struggles that I had to accept myself, to come out in the society and eventually stand up for my community, it is a very special part of my identity, and I would never let it go. And I mean, I embrace it now. It was very difficult initially, but I feel that definitely it's a part of me, but it does not define me as a person. So that's something that I really stand for. Second, I think I was very privileged, and I was backed up with a lot of support and with a lot of love from my parents, from my family. And for the very fact that I was born in an upper class Hindu Brahmin family, I was bombarded with a lot of privilege, which a lot of people don't get, and I'm really grateful for that. So when I got that kind of privilege, I felt that I could use that into good use, and help people who do not have access to perhaps resources or education. Even though I had privilege, nevertheless, it was very difficult for me to accept myself because I didn't have an idol to look up to. I didn't have support. I didn't have mental health support at that point of time. So I think I wanted to be that kind of person who queer children could eventually look up to and say that, okay, yes, I feel like that. I want girls to look up to me and say, okay, you can break barriers in the country. You can break barriers of gender, of caste, of religion, and still be okay, So I think that was my idea of standing up for myself and eventually coming out. And I hope that through whatever education I do in schools or in colleges, I hope that children get that idea that whoever they identify as, they're absolutely normal. And eventually it would be a big part of your identity, but it's not everything. So, yeah.
Thank you for your insightful words, Riya. Now, over to the next questions. Joanne?
Yeah, sure. So the next question is to Anwesh. Hi, Anwesh. Okay, so you've accomplished so much, and it would be an understatement to say that you've impacted so many lives by just being yourself. You once said, embrace your effeminacy with flair. It's the most enriching thing you'll ever learn to live your life with. And that is powerful. So, what was your journey like in learning to accept and celebrate your individualism and directing that into achieving your best self, while also using it to make the world a more compassionate and inclusive space?
So, thank you so much for that question. First of all, I think that's a very important, topic to discuss here, and I'm really glad that we have queer, femme, non-binary, trans representation in this panel, because we are the most vulnerable and the most ostracized and othered from the community. So it's very important for us to be a part of the popular media and become a part of the popular narrative, and that our representation is the one that is actually going to help uplift the community overall in general. And why I say this is because I grew up being effeminate, not knowing what being gay, being trans, being non-binary is. None of this existed in my dictionary at all. I always was made to believe that one day I will grow up and I will marry a woman, and I will lead my life. And that cisgender heteronormativity had penetrated my mindset in so deeply that it was so difficult for me to unlearn all that conditioning that I'd had over the years. Like I said, I was bullied and mocked heavily all throughout my childhood. It's very difficult, for me to hide my queerness or hide my gayness, because I'm very visibly effeminate, something I didn't understand growing up. I would just talk like myself, and I would always be told, why do you talk like a girl? Why do you raise hands like a girl? Why do you walk like a girl? Why do you do this or that like a girl? And of course, growing up, being associated to femininity was always considered that something lesser, something that I wanted, eventually work towards changing, because being masculine or feminine in any way does not, degrade you from where you are. It only enhances your beauty being associated to any of these two extreme identities. And I think around the time I was, 14, 15, that was time around which, teenagers become really mean, and they say some really, really mean things to you. And I had just moved to Delhi from Orissa. The vocabulary here was completely different. There were these slang, cuss words which were thrown at me, which I didn't understand at all. And for the first time, I heard gay being used as a cuss word. And I became curious. I went back home, started researching, knowing more about it. And I remember the first thing that I had actually, Googled was, man kissing a man. And I came across with all these images, and I was like, oh, okay. So whatever is going on in my head is actually not like an anomaly or an abnormality. It exists somewhere around the world. And then slowly and steadily, I got to know more about being gay. And the first, an annotation to being gay was something that was demeaning. You were either a sex maniac or a sex-seeking maniac. You're a caricature. You're a bumbling buffoon. That's how we've been represented in popular media. And so the very moment I started understanding that I'm attracted to men and that I'm femme, I didn't want to be any of those things. I wanted to run away. I wanted to kill myself. I didn't want to live anymore. And when I say I wanted to kill myself, I'm very serious about it. I had suicidal tendencies. I was so depressed that I would switch off my lights and would just cry for hours, scribbling on my table, just not knowing where to go, where to find any solutions to what I was going through in my head. And thankfully, we had psychologists in school. So this one time, I was still sitting in my classroom, and it was like a cycle in my life where I would just cry for no reason at all, because there were so many pent up emotions, and I started crying all of a sudden. And my teacher realized that there was something wrong with me, and she took me out to another classroom and she said, "Anwesh, let's talk about this." And she started asking me questions, and I told her that this is how I feel about men around me. And I don't like it. I don't like this attraction to men. I just want to be normal, because back then being gay was abnormal. So thankfully, she didn't, read me down. She didn't bog me down or my views. She just said, "Let's go to the psychologist. Let's talk to her." And the very next morning, I was at Dr. Meghna's office, who was my school psychologist, and she started asking me some really personal questions. These were questions that were very difficult for me to answer. So I lied all of them. I didn't answer any of them honestly. But by the end of that conversation, I realized what answer she was looking for, and I knew those answers. And I think that was the first moment when I realized that, that this idea that I had in my head that maybe I'm gay is actually true. I am gay. And now what do I have to deal with? What do I do with this? I have to now deal with this. So I need to figure my way out. And there was a certain sense of peace from there on. I finally realized that, okay, this is who I am. And now I'll just have to, define a path for me from here on. And the first thing that came to my mind was undoing that representation that we've had all all through these years, because I didn't want another Anwesh or another, person from the queer community to go through that entire journey that I had gone through, where I had started loathing myself so much that I didn't want to live anymore. And I wanted to just change this narrative completely. I knew that I could not change my history, but I can change what comes ahead of me. And I wanted to rewrite that story. And that's how it all began. I started, blogging. I started writing more about my stories. Contextual queerness was completely almost non-existent in popular media. Thankfully, we had representations in India like a Harish Iyer or a Padmesh Shahani or a Gauri Tai. We had all of these folks from the community who were out there. There were documentaries here and there on YouTube. Thank God I belong to the queer millennial generation. There was a Freddie Mercury. There was an Ellen DeGeneres. There was a Grace Jones. I listened to their interviews, their documentaries, and I would just be so inspired by them. And they were the ones who made me believe that gender is a spectrum. That gender is not a binary concept. There is a clear difference between gender and sex. My gender expression is androgynous, and this is who I want to be. And I just kept educating myself. I kept educating the folks around me in my college. I was living in a boys' hostel, it was just, to be very honest, a nightmare for me, because I was just uncomfortable with being surrounded with boys. They were always bullies to me, very, very contrary to what a lot of people might think. I was scared of, being in an engineering institution, being surrounded with boys. But I somehow realized that the more I knew them, the more they understood me, the more we had conversations, we could change that narrative one step at a time. So I would, play to their curiosity. I would answer each question one by one, and things just started changing and started transforming for the better. So I always say that, the idea that, I'm so much more than being gay actually truly changed my life. Like Riya just said that, it's just one of those things that about us. It's not everything about us. And that's when you start realizing you are a real breathing human being. You deserve to live your life with dignity, respect. You deserve to be empowered. You have to focus on your skill set. And that's what's going to, eventually, be one of those things that's going to define you. And I kept sharing my story with, as many people as I could, whoever was willing to understand and know me more. And then I just saw my world, go 360 degrees completely, from, being a completely bullied kid to being accepted and celebrated for who I was. And I always say that, I was a victim of homophobia only till the day I was a homophobe myself. And the day I stopped being a homophobe, I stopped being a victim of homophobia. And then everything just started changing for the better. So I always say, if you can afford to come out, please come out, share your story. And that's going to help not just you. It's not only going to save your boat, but someone else's boat as well. And that's exactly why we are here. That's what's going to give hope and, be a point of reference for a lot of us to lead our lives as inspiring, real individuals.
Thank you so much, Anwesh. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing your journey and being so vulnerable on this platform. And because this means so much to a lot of us, and to see your growth, it's really inspiring. And we still have a long way to go to challenge stereotypes, but you're doing a great job doing that so far. So we'll move on to our next guest. Varun, take it away.
Yep. Next question is to Adamharry. Even when we say Kerala is trans-friendly, the attitude of people and society towards the transgender has not changed much. It is true that there are several government schemes for them, but it reaches only a few people. Others are still suffering the harassment and abuse of society. Quoted from an article you gave for the NDTV, how big a part did society and its preconceived stereotypes play in your life? From Adam?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, I'll reiterate the question. How big a part did society and its preconceived stereotypes play in your life? And just to add on, from what you've experienced, what do you think are some systematic changes that could be made to our society?
Even though Kerala, thank you for the question. Even though Kerala is hailed as a transgender-friendly state, when we look back to 2011, Kerala Social Justice Department have conducted a survey on transgender people back in 2011, and the government asked the authority that do they even exist in Kerala. So the visibility of transgender community in Kerala was very less, and the environment in Kerala in our state wasn't favorable for the transgender community to survive. So at that time, before 2014's NALSA verdict, the visibility was of transgender people in Kerala was very less. So many people migrated from our state to some other cities such as Bangalore, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. So they found themselves safe and they found their shelter in different state. They only came back when NALSA verdict came in, when Supreme Court recognized transgender people after the NALSA verdict, and they gave us the right to declare our own identity by ourselves. And after that, in 2015, we had the Kerala government formed a policy for transgender people. Kerala is the first state to have a policy for transgender people in our country. So through the transgender policy, they implemented a lot of schemes for to support transgender community in Kerala, and including providing identity cards, and they provided scholarships and financial assistance for students and also for entrepreneurs in transgender community. They included intersex people, gender non-binary, queer people also in the spectrum of transgenders, and they provided the same benefits as they provided it to trans women and trans men in our state. But as we all know, after 377 abolished, the government only uh, recognize the homosexual people, and they only allows homosexual people to be in a consensual sexual relationship. But our country is violating basic human rights of homosexual people. And at the same time, in 2019, we had a policy. We had a bill came in, Transgender People's Protection Right Act. Now it is an act which is passed by the government, and it also, the bill itself says that it is a protection right act for transgender people. Neither the bill or even after abolition 377, we don't have the right to marry, right to adopt, right to own a property. Yeah, when we say about the right to marry in among transgender community, we have a couple, Surya and Ishan. This is an example in our country who was the first transgender couple in our country. But they got the opportunity to marry only just because they changed their gender identity to female or male, to the binary. When they change the identity to the binary in their certificates, they are allowed to marry. But for the people who are not having the privilege to change their identity, they don't have the right to get married. And also, our government is providing funds for the people who are married, for the transgender people who are married. By doing this, they are invalidating other people who don't want to change their gender identity or gender in their documents. So these are the drawbacks in Kerala government. If still it is held as a transgender friendly state, we have a lot of problems still to solve in our state policy. But after 2019's Protection Right Act, it had an impact on our policy as well. It had an impact on our state schemes as well. But government is finding solutions to go on with the schemes that we had. And also, as a transgender community is an underprivileged community, many of the transgender people are not even aware of their rights that they have. And they are not aware of the state policy schemes and all. So the government has come up with programs, and they formed groups within each district with the help of transgender cell and transgender district board members. So I hope that it is a revolutionary change that we had in our state. Even though everybody is struggling with the latest transgender policy, Transgender People's Protection Right Act, but Kerala is really moving forward, and I'm really happy about that. And also, when we say about the recognition of trans people or queer community in our society, we have to start it from our home. Actually, our first bullies are our family. So when we talk about including sexuality education, we know World Health Organization have a clear guideline of sexuality education, but still our country doesn't have a proper syllabus which talks about gender, sexuality, and identities, different various identities. But we need that in our curriculum to change our society. Then definitely we can change society in future. I know it is very hard, but it will take some time. Still, we have to move forward. Thank you.
That was really insightful, Adam, and thanks a lot for sharing your views on this topic. And it was really nice to hear all of your stories. But now we have some more questions, the answers to which we'd love to hear from all of you. So let's get you all together and let's get to it. All right, to the very first question. You know that more than anything else, people want to be heard and understood. You all took it upon yourselves to spread awareness, inclusivity, love, and went on to create a safe, accepting space for individuals impacted by society's norms and stereotypes. How can allies or cisgender people be of any help in contributing to the same and ensure the voices of individuals are always heard? How can each of us help in making this a more inclusive space? Let's start with Riya.
I think like this is very important now that we have just started talking about it. So the basic initiative of saying pronouns after your name is really important, because I think when I particularly talk about pronoun, a lot of people say that, "Nay, why do we need it? Why is it so important for you guys?" See, from my perspective, I have gone through extreme dysphoria since the age of 5 to the age of 20. And it was very difficult for me as an assigned female at birth to break barriers and eventually say that, no, I'm not a woman. I'm not the woman that you expected me to be. And I'm going to break barriers. So, from the time that I had to, fit into the, stereotypes of being a woman, when I came out and said that, no, I'm gender fluid, it was a different ballgame. But then when I got to know from, and it was so important to have people like Anwesh and Adam who were activists before me, before I came out, so that I had people to know that, okay, they are there and they will support me when I come out. I had that kind of support. I knew that they would always be there for me. But through them, when I came to know that gender fluidity exists, or they, them is a pronoun, or MX is a prefix, it was a sense of liberation. When you finally found out, oh, there's something that fits into your feelings. So I think that's important. And second is to listen, educate, and empower authentic and new voices. There are so many new voices which are coming up, and I feel that all of them deserve the stage. They deserve the mic. And I hope that we are able to do that. And there are so many non-binary people out there, and my experiences would not match to their experiences, because there are so many non-binary experiences, as many non-binary experiences as there are non-binary people. So I think we need to learn more about, the community, educate ourselves, and basically be respectful and open to understanding and open to acquiring new knowledge. This is something I feel personally.
Thank you so much, Riya. That made a lot of sense, and I hope a lot of us can, take proper notes from that. So, Anwesh, what do you have to say about this?
Good to hear Riya and Adam speak about some really, really important pointers here. I would like to actually reiterate what Adam, just specifically mentioned about legal names, how difficult it is to actually change a name in our country still. Even though we live in a country that, Adam spoke about the Nalsa judgment back in 2014, made it possible for, reservations for trans folks to get job opportunities and equal opportunities in centralized and state level institutions. Till now, despite the fact that we have policies, we don't have the willingness in corporates to actually hire actively trans folks and have reservations for them. And it's only when you hire trans folks, non-binary folks, femme folks, that you will realize where the problem areas are, and how disappointing it is that you need to have a certificate to tell people that you're trans or you're a woman or a man. That is just it is extremely disappointing, and I really, really hope that changes. And I'm glad that we've been able to pick up these pointers here and be be able to talk about these, because that's what is going to make us better allies when we talk about the problem areas that we all have here. Now, coming to becoming stronger allies. First of all, I think it's extremely important that we do our own research first. Every time I was asked whether I'm gay or not, my heart would sink into my stomach. Or queer folks, we don't come out just once. We come out again and again and again. And it is so just heartbreaking and so tiring and just exhausting to keep talking about, how I'm gay and how I came out again and again and again. And I had reached a point when I actually started telling my friends that, you know what, I don't think I would like to talk about this, even sometimes during live sessions when I'm asked about these questions, because it was a very difficult and a very disappointing time in my life. And it's very difficult sometimes to talk about that point, because it just tears me apart sometimes. I have given enough number of talks. There are enough number of TEDx talks that I've done. So please go ahead and listen to our views. Maybe Riya, Adam, me. We have enough number of reference points now, at least, which is a good thing. So please do your research and then come ahead. And if you still have any queries, I'm happy to answer them. But just don't come to me and ask me, when did you know you were gay? Because it's very difficult to just talk about it. Become comfortable being uncomfortable or being part of uncomfortable discussions. If you're an ally, if you're a proud ally, then you are going to be part of these very uncomfortable discussions at a sutta point or in a family WhatsApp group, where one of your uncles is going to come up and say that, oh, this is trash. And the representation of this community is just so unrequired and uncalled for. And I have faced it. We've all faced it in the community. Adam very rightly said that sometimes our families are actually our first bullies. And it's very important that we have that conversation with patients and let them know that this is how this works. And if they have a homophobic or a femophobic opinion, then perhaps disengage actively from those conversations. It's only when you disengage that the other person will know that, oh, wow, you've said something that I've said something that might have actually hurt someone else's feelings, and that's not the right way to be. And if they're being ignorant about it, just leave them right where they are, move on, but at least make that effort of being in an uncomfortable situation and talking about this. Listen to conversations like these that we're having right now. It's important to have open these roundtable conversations, or live streams of us talking about our lives, or conversations in institutions and workplaces. Get us and have these conversations and get the most, also please get the most vulnerable from the community. If you're just getting a cis, gay, straight passing man, then you're not doing your job right. I'm sorry, but because that's, of course, you're trying to create some kind of inclusion, but it's just a fact that the most vulnerable are queer, femme, non-binary, trans folks. And if you're not talking about our experiences, then you're not doing justice to inclusive policies in your book. So if you really want to talk about inclusivity, bring representation from all of these communities together. And do not perform performative allyship. I go to a lot of organizations and they keep telling me, oh, wow, we have an LGBT group, we have a support group, we celebrate Pride, we wear rainbow colors, we have a rainbow tree. Great, fabulous, wear rainbow makeup and come join us for that 1 month. I'm very happy about it. But if you're just doing that and with your rainbow logo on Instagram, then you're not serving any purpose, and your performative allyship can be is good with you, don't bring it to me, because it's not making any difference for me at all. You have to have, non-discriminatory policies. You need to have, finances to support your trans candidates and trans employees with their transition, if they would like to go ahead with that. You need to have a complete, ecosystem where, people who are the most vulnerable, who look so different, feel like they belong, because it's inevitable. We do look different, and sometimes we do have a lot of glaring eyes on us, and it's very uncomfortable in a workplace, or in a school, or in an institution, an educational institution. So your performative allyship is not going to help us. be like true allies to us with your policies, by helping us, working with support groups. A lot of trans identities in our country live with support groups. We have a Jamaat system in our country. You have to reach out to them to actually bring them to the, educate them and bring them, good employment opportunities. Moving on, you have to learn from your mistakes. We've all done mistakes, despite of being from the community. There have been times when we might have misgendered someone, or we might have said something insensitive. We've all learned from our past mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. Accept it, and that's the only way you're going to make changes that really count for. And amplify the voices. Riya very rightly mentioned, you have to amplify the voices of all of us from the community, so that we become part of the mainstream narrative, and we're not just some parallel cinema that's going on somewhere, parallel universe that we're living in. We have to be part of movies that run in theaters. We need to be part of narratives on popular OTT platforms, and that's how we are going to be empowered truly. And lastly, you have to show up. We have beautiful pride parades happening every year in different states. Wherever you are, go to your nearest pride parade and become a part of the celebration. That's probably one of the best ways you're going to know and understand what we are as communities. That we're not just some unicorns existing in a virtual world, but we exist for real. And we have lives, we have families, we have jobs just like you do. And even when I went to a pride parade for the first time, it actually was the most educational experience for me. So please go and become a part of the community if you really want to be a true real ally to the community. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks a lot, Anwesh. There's like a lot of points in there, a lot for us to process and digest. Adam, would you like to add on?
Actually, Anwesh and Riya said most of the points that I was about to tell. Actually, yeah, most of the time, even when we talk about inclusive campuses, inclusive making an inclusive college, or starting for when we talk about starting a cure club in your college, many people ask when a group of students start a cure club, they may ask, we don't have anybody in our college came out as a cure person, and what is the point in starting a cure or club or organization? For them, I would like to say they can act as ally in this space, and also they can conduct such gender sensitization classes. We are all lacking a lot of awareness about LGBTQ community, that which leads to homophobia, transphobia, and queerphobia. So to find a solution, you can act as an ally and do such works. And also, whenever you conduct such classes, as Anwesh said, do some research. They always keep on asking asking phobic questions, such as when did you choose to become a gay or choose to become a transgender. So the people who ever asking that when did you choose to become a gay or trans people, I have a question for you also. When did you choose to become a heterosexual, or when did you choose to become a cisgender? So you don't have any answer for that. So like that, it is the moment we are coming out in a moment when we realize our identity, we explore our identity. We may be confused while we are exploring it, but the moment when we realize it, we come out as we are. So you can, as Anwesh said, those points are those points are valid, and you can be a good ally if you follow it. And he talked about movies. We know trans people and queer people are portrayed as molesters, and they portrayed as always as sex workers, beggars, and they used to make fun out of us. Not only about gender minorities in movies, most of the movies they make fun out of race, body, color, caste. So this is discriminatory. So our movies should be very inclusive. Even we have many examples of movies. Even last in Bollywood, there is a movie called Pati Patni Aur Panga. That movie is very transphobic. Whenever a person is playing a transgender role, or people are nowadays, it has become a trend to make LGBTQI movies just to it has become a trend. So when they cast people for this movie. They cast cisgender people to act in the queer roles, and then they provide misleading informations and all. So like blackfishing, casting cisgender people to do homosexual or transgender people's role is very politically incorrect, and we have to change the people in mainstream medias. We have to change the way people portray trans or queer community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Adam. I mean, everything you all said made so much of sense, and I really hope everyone's noting down points properly because and everyone's trying to make a change. Thank you all so much. So we'll move on to the next question. So each of you are prominent and distinguished members of the society with numerous accolades and achievements to your name. So the question is, as individuals looking back now, what are some of your favorite accomplishments or one memory that stands close to your heart in your professional or personal life? So for this, I think we can start with Anwesh.
Well, I think from when I started out with my blog, I remember the feminaire, which basically means being effeminate. And, I wanted to take that stigma away from being effeminate. So I just called myself the feminaire, and it somehow became cool. And I think it's really cool to me when sometimes, because I make wedding invites as well, I work as a visual designer. I have a lot of clients who come up to me and they just want me to, they want the effeminaire to draw, their wedding invites. And it's a moment of a lot of pride for me when I have finally accomplished in that, even in my little bubble, I have been able to accomplish that little goal of an effeminate man drawing invites for cis and cisgender, homosexual or heterosexual marriages. I think that's something very special to me. But I would also certainly like to mention that when I started out, I wanted to just be able to change one person's life and just let them know that they belong. And recently, someone who was 13-year-old reached out to me, and he said that I was able to come out to my parents. I read your story, I saw your story. I like how you celebrate the gender spectrum, how you play with the idea of gender. I love how androgynous you are. I think you're beautiful, and these are things which meant so much to me that, a 13-year-old kid, we have been able to finally create an ecosystem where 13-year-old kids can come out to their parents and talk about this and be accepted. And that is exactly what is going to change the narrative around all queer folks. And eventually we're going to walk into a world without labels, where any of this wouldn't be required anymore. And that is the kind of world we're eventually looking at creating, and a truly inclusive space for all where nobody judges you for being who you are as a person.
Thank you, Anwesh. Riya, would you like to add on to what Anwesh said?
Yeah, so I mean, like Anwesh said, what matters to us is that we are able to create change. For me, I always wanted to be a public speaker and a motivational speaker. And so TEDx was something that I really looked up to. And, so Harish Iyer, Parmesh Sahani had TEDx talks, and I used to watch them and really feel inspired. And someday I wanted to be there. But when I did my TEDx talks, I realized that it was not about me giving a TEDx talk, but it was about the change that my TEDx talks were bringing. And so, like Anwesh said, when he got a message from a 13-year-old, that was what hit him the most. And so I think, such experiences really matter to me also. I think I gave a Josh talk, which was in Hindi. And so usually we have content, a lot of LGBT content in English. We don't have a lot of content in regional languages. And so I was really proud of the Josh talk that I gave. And it reached millions of people. And after that, the kind of response I got, I was really motivated to, teach in schools. And that was the turning point of my life. I think that really inspired me. And I think one of the best accomplishments that I see was when, for the first time, my own college teachers asked me to do a gender sensitization in their classes, and it was not even official. We were just doing it behind the backs of the authorities. I think that was really special to me, because those were, I think, one of my first talks that I gave. So it really inspired me also to keep doing the work. So I think that was about it. So I think breaking barriers and not following any conventions is what I'm proud of. I think all of us are.
Thank you so much, Riya. That was lovely. And now let's go to Adam. We'd love to hear from you.
Actually, my experience was much like Riya. Actually, when I was studying in my school, I faced a lot of discrimination, and students and teachers alike bullied me. So when I came out as a trans person, I was 15 to 16 years old. I was studying in my higher secondary classes. So one of the trainers, I was a part of NSS team. So one of the trainers in my NSS team removed me from the group for me coming out as a trans person. So that was a really uncomfortable, unforgettable moment that I had in my life. Then later I stopped going to classes and I stopped attending programs in my school. So and years later, when I went for pilot training, and after that my family disowned me, then I fought for my career, and after that, after a lot of struggles, I got back to my career because Kerala government helped me to continue my education. They provided me around 23.75 lakhs of scholarship to continue my education. So at that moment, when media interviewed me for many mainstream medias in Kerala interviewed me. Then later, one day I got a call from my old trainer, NSS trainer, and he invited to inaugurate an NSS campaign, NSS camp, and also I conducted gender sensitization classes at that group. In a group where my trainer removed me for disclosing my identity, invited me to take that wonderful class, and I am so happy that I could do that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adam, for sharing your views. Next question is, what does Pride mean to you, and how did Pride Month turn out to be for you? Let's start with Riya.
Sure, I think I have a thing with Pride Month. I love it. And I get to celebrate a lot. I get a lot of work. But it also makes me question if it would still persist. So I am happy throughout the month that a lot of organizations are coming up. A lot of corporates want to do sessions. But I honestly, then after June, I'm, sending them mails about a follow-up session or for the new employees, but they don't, respond back. So I constantly question this kind of tokenism where you just, as Anwesh said, just putting a rainbow logo does not actually matter. And even, I've seen that a lot of corporates do employ trans individuals and queer individuals, but after that they don't do a sensitization in their organization. So a lot of people don't even know how to sensitively talk to trans individuals or queer folks, because our needs are definitely special. If a trans individual is going through a transition, then they would need financial support, they need emotional support, but a lot of corporates are not sensitive about that. So I think that still persists, but I'm not complaining. I like June. Now that there's still there's still initiatives being taken, and I hope that people remember that June was a month. I think that's. I love doing sensitization. That's something that I got to do a lot. So I'm happy about that. But I also hope that this time, that we are so enthusiastic about the Pride Month, about September in India. I hope that also goes on to 365 days and not just months. So I think that's what I feel. And you asked me what pride means to me. I think that as I say, I'm really trying my best to gain more skills, read more books, and work on myself. So I feel that I'm proud of who I'm becoming. Not just for the fact that I am gender fluid or I'm lesbian, but for the fact that as a person who has gone through so much struggles, gone through lots of heartbreaks, I've reached a point where I can, trust myself, love myself, and love all parts of me. So I think that's pride for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Riya. And now, Adam, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I still remember the first Pride month that I celebrated after I came out as a trans person, after I proudly came out to my family and the society. So I'm really happy that now the things have changed because many in every mainstream of society there is a huge progress, and people nowadays know what is a trans man, what is a trans woman. Back in 2019, whenever I disclose my identity, whenever I say that I'm a trans man, people assume that the term trans man is something related to Superman, Spider-Man, or Batman. But now it has changed. People have the idea of what transgender community is. So now I'm so happy that a lot of gender sensitization classes are happening in Kerala, especially in colleges and medical streams. There are a lot of sensitization classes are happening in medical colleges, especially for doctors, and also the classes are happening in our judiciary, police, for police, and that is very. I'm so happy to be a part of this group who have fought for their rights, and the changes happened only because of the people who fought before us, like the people who are mainstream activists like Shidal Sham, Renju Renjima. They really fought for the rights of transgender community in Kerala, and I'm so happy to be to say that I'm a cure, and I'm proud of it. Thank you.
Anwesh, would you like to add on?
Sure. First of all, very heartening to listen to these stories. I'm so glad I came here, and it's been lovely listening to Riya and Adam. And I think when it comes to talking about pride, it has meant different things to me every year because I came out like around 8 years ago. Wow, it's been a long, long time. So the very first year when I came out, it was just trying to come to terms with my identity. And then the next pride was about going out there and seeing who else is a part of the community. Then the next pride, became about speaking about my identity to other folks from the community. So it was a step by step, process for me. But the one thing that it has always been is the truest celebration of my expression. You know, I truly want to belong to a world where all of us are celebrated for who we are, for our gender expression, for our gender identity, wherever we are in the spectrum. And that will only happen when we truly talk about inclusive policies everywhere, every institution that you talk about. And I don't think we can anymore pick and choose, oh, let's just pick marriage equality first and then we'll get to adoption rights. Or let's just talk about adoption rights and then talk about marriage equality. Or let's talk first about anti discrimination policies, then we'll get to financial support for trans folks. No, we do not want that anymore. We want the entire platter together. We don't want pick and choose, whatever you feel like doing. And I think right now is the right time to serve that entire platter to us, and I think that's what Pride Month should truly be about. It can no more be about performative allyship. It has to be about true allyship with the right kind of policies, the right kind of support with finances, the right kind of education, the right kind of opportunities, the right kind of empowerment. And let's see if that happens. I'm sure all three of us have been to many institutions by now talking about this again and again every day. So let's see how much of this actually, comes to fruition eventually. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Anwesh. Okay, so like as we move on to the next question. So like you guys said, um, there's a lot of performative allyship going on right now, and we can think of how big corporations change their logos during Pride Month but provide no real infrastructural support like inclusive hostels or toilet facilities. And this is a bit hard to answer, but how do you think we can push these institutions and governments to invest more in these infrastructural facilities? I think for that we can start with Anwesh.
Sure. I think the first point has to be about allyship of all the employees or all the people who are part of a certain community. So it could be an institution, it could be a university, or a corporate space. And we've already spoken in detail about how we truly can be, true allies to the community, because that will bring willingness in us to actually finally, put all of these pointers about inclusive policies to place. Because sometimes, like I said, sometimes there are policies in place, but there is no willingness. So true allyship will lead us to willingness, and that willingness will eventually lead us to, bringing all of these policies to life at our workplace. I've already mentioned about non-discriminatory policies. So, same-sex partnership benefits, say, for example, or, gender affirmation surgeries, insurance money being allocated for as gender, affirmation surgery. You don't even have to go out of your way and bring more money to allocate for gender affirmation surgery. You already have your insurance money, which can be directed in this way. Of course, you've already spoken about infrastructure in terms of having a gender neutral washroom. I don't think it's very difficult to do that. I think it's just we just don't have the ability. We have, for example, in an airport, you have a separate washroom for differently abled people. Why can't we have that? Why can't we have gender neutral washrooms now? And in fact, a lot of the organizations right now in the country have already done it. It's not, we don't even have to look too far to understand what's going to happen here in India. There is a Keshav Suri Foundation who's done a fabulous job with Lalit Suri, group of hotels who have actively hired trans folks, actively hired queer femme folks from the community, and given them proper opportunities, well-paid opportunities, and have a very great infrastructure at their workplace. And they're just a burning example of how you don't need money sometimes, you just need willingness, you just need understanding to do that. Say, for example, I think, Adam mentioned about names. Legal names are very difficult to change. Amazon has done something very interesting where you have a display name and you have a legal name. It's as simple as that. In 10 minutes, you can just give a trans person the access to change their display name so that everybody knows this is who they are, this is who they identify as. And in that time, they can at least work on their legal name being changed, because it's a very complex and a very long drawn process. Sensitization sessions, of course, from the community are a must. I think spoken about this even when it comes to allyship, about roundtable conferences, about conversations like these that we're having right now. You need to get the right kind of people from the community, get them together and have a conversation, talk about allyship, talk about policies, talk about finances being allocated, talk about collaborating with support groups. What happens is a lot of companies, they go to these consultancies, pay a lot of money to these consultancies to bring them, great CVs of trans folks, but they will never give the same amount of money or the honorarium to trans folks who are working with these support groups, who are working as NGOs. You have a Solidarity Foundation, you have a Humsafar Trust. There are many in our country. You reach out to them, you work in collaboration with them, hire trans folks from there, and every time you get someone from that organization to your, these sessions that we are having right now, or corporate spaces, provide them with some amount of money. You can't just be like, oh, this is this money. When companies pay crores of money to consultancies, by the way. So these are simple ways in which we can at least, start taking those little steps towards inclusion everywhere, even in corporate space or education institutions or universities. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Anwesh. A lot of insightful words there. Adam, would you like to share your thoughts on the same?
Yeah. When we talk about inclusion, we know in every forms of in government authorities forms, they have included a column other than female and male. Recently, Kerala government mandates that every government forms should have a column for transgenders other than female and male. But in my personal opinion, personal experience, I have faced a lot of discrimination when I came to the professional field. Like when I entered into the aviation industry, I only know few people who works in this industry currently, and also they have already faced a lot of discrimination. When the media celebrate transgender people's achievement, when they celebrate and give us the tag of first transgender people or first queer person to do this and do so, when they give us the tag, but the problems that we are facing have no end. Even media celebrates it, or even the companies who hires us celebrate it. You know, a simple example from Kerala itself. Our government hired many people to Cochin Metro, and what happened later? They didn't pay them well. They just paid 8,000 rupees or something like that, and they kept these people working in the toilets and behind the workplace, and also they didn't pay much to them, and they didn't provided accommodation, shelter, and any other benefits that other cis hetero people had. So people hire us, and later we face a lot of discrimination in our workplace. And I had an experience when I talked to Myra Bandaliga, who is the first transgender person to hold the tag, India's first transgender air traffic controller. She works in a BC environment. She have an experience up to 15 years in this field, and still they are not allowing her to use the public toilet in the airport. So this is very pathetic situation that still we go through. And also when it comes to my identity and my career, there is a gender column, transgender. There is a column in our aviation IDGCA's website, and also in their all of their forms. Transgender, there is a particular transgender column, but we cannot mark that our gender as transgender in that column. We cannot use it. Actually, they are saying that we don't have a particular guideline for transgender people. They said I have to wait for 5 more years to add the guide, to get that guidelines, and to add my gender to transgender. Even I am not being able to select my gender as male or transgender. So these discriminations are happening everywhere. Even Shabi, who was the first transgender naval officer, she got fired from her employment just because she came out as a transgender person. And also, let's take an example of our own airline, Air India. They denied the job opportunity of a trans woman who applied for a cabin crew job. And when we say about our constitution's rights, when we take article 14, 15, or 21, it says about it talks about the non-discrimination laws, right to live, right of privacy, everything. But we are not getting the opportunity to enjoy the privileges. So, but the Kerala government has moved far forward, and they are providing reservation for transgender students in colleges. 2%, there are 2% of reservation in colleges. That is a huge revolutionary change. And they are providing financial assistance for trans people for the surgery. For trans men, they are providing 5 lakhs, up to 5 lakhs rupees, and for trans women, they provide 3 lakhs. And they are also providing as employment assistance, and they provide training programs for transgender entrepreneurs. And also, they provide a huge amount of money to start an entrepreneurship for trans people. So this is a change that we had, but still we have a lot of problems when it comes to the central policy. They are not talking about the rights such. They are not mentioning about inclusion of transgender community, even including insurance, reservation, surgery assistance. They are not talking about that in our central policy. But we need these changes to happen in our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam, for shining a light on a lot of these points. We definitely need to, read up more, and we have a long way to go to make this good. So now let's hear from Riya. What do you think?
So I think Anwesh and Adam covered much of what I wanted to say, but I just have some experiences that I'd like to share, and perhaps we would gain some insight from it. I think I met when I do corporate sessions, a lot of times I get no, we don't have any gay person in our company. We don't have trans individuals in our company. Why should we do a sensitization? Nothing. I mean, what's the purpose of it? I mean, that does not make sense, to be very honest. The first thing is, if you don't create a safe space for individuals to come out, they won't come out, and you won't know that there's a queer person in your company. The second is, you framed it very interestingly. How do we make companies, invest in inclusive infrastructure, stuff like that? Something that works well is to help them understand that if they create an inclusive environment, if people feel safe as they are, no matter if they belong from the queer family or not, I think when there's an accepting environment, the productivity rises. That's if you actually read Kyrgyzstan by Anwesh Sahoo, which is one of my training guides right now. I think that even there's a statistic that if you create a safe environment, the productivity will go. And even in like a country, the GDP will no. I mean, we lose a lot of GDP when we don't create a safe environment for queer individuals to be there, because we are creative. We are, and we are very passionate about whatever we do. And the conversation started with how being queer is not our only identity. And the fact is, we want to be mainstreamed. We want to work in corporate spaces. We want to prove our skills. But a lot of times, I mean, we don't get that opportunity. The second is when we talk about gender neutral infrastructure like washrooms. I think there's a debate there also. A lot of times when you create a gender neutral washroom but people don't know what it stands for, it is actually discriminatory, because I identify gender fluid and I prefer to go to gender neutral washrooms. But when people don't know, they abuse happens, harassment happens, because people just don't know what it stands for. For them, it's just okay. Anybody can enter that, or anybody can use that. For me, I need a certain kind of safety also. So if you create a gender neutral washroom, if you create gender neutral infrastructure, but I don't feel safe, then I think it won't make the difference. So as Anwesh said, the intention should be right. Even if you take initiatives and people are not aware, if there are anti-discriminatory laws, policies, but you don't follow it, then it won't matter. Like I've also seen companies who have neutral anti-discriminatory laws, but if somebody, and also gender neutral posh laws, even when trans individuals or gender non-binary or queer individuals report harassment at work, people don't take it seriously. They're mostly like, "Nahi, you only did something, or तुमने कुछ गलत किया होगा," or your identity is like that. I mean, what do queer individuals do, right? It's all about intimacy or sex. I mean, I've heard such things in companies and big companies. So I think we need to start talking about it, and as both of them said, we really need to get authentic voices right there and also pay them equally. Like a lot of times people say, okay, it's a social work thing. So it's like a CSR activism, or, and even when we talk about CSRs, right? A lot of times people are not comfortable, putting their CSRs into queer NGOs, or people who are doing really good work just because they are themselves homophobic or they don't stand for the cause. But I think every cause deserves equal treatment. Every cause matters. And when you get queer individuals on board, I feel that they are coming from a background of first-hand experience. They'll have much more to tell you than cisgendered heterosexual people who are training you into LGBT. So, and our lives, and it takes, like Anwesh and Adam said, it takes effort to, again, remember what we went through and put it on the table and still be like, okay, we are open to questions. No matter how bad those questions are, we are there to answer them. So I think it takes a lot of effort, and we deserve equal opportunities, and we deserve equal financial support also. I mean, we need, okay, social work, okay, but it will help you also. So that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Riya, for sharing your personal views and personal experiences. And now for a final question. So, if there's one piece of advice you could give the youth navigating through their personal journeys and experiencing difficulty in accepting themselves, what would it be? Maybe this time again, Riya, you could start.
Sure. So, first of all, because I'm here because of people who came before me, and I owe my life to them, definitely. I mean, many queer individuals give up on their lives, they give up on their journeys, and they don't find support. For me, because I was privileged, I had access to a lot of resources and I had people backing me up, and I had inspiration who were an activists who were working before me. And so as a youth here, I exist because of all of them. Something that helped me was that I constantly told myself that when I come out, I'll come out in open. I remember telling it to myself that बस एक बार come out हो जाए, उसके बाद I'll come out to the entire world. And I did that, and I realized that it matters. So visibility matters a lot. I think that what you're going through right now, if there's a queer individual listening to this, what you're going through right now will actually train you into the person who you look up to 5 years down the line, and you'll inspire a lot of people. A lot of times it gets very hard and you want to give up. But I think what matters is to stand up for yourself. Take your time. Don't push yourself to come out. A lot of times people think, oh, I've turned 16, I have to come out. Don't come out if you can't and you don't feel safe in your environment right now. Be financially independent. Then come out when your environment is supportive, perhaps. And I think that's what I want to say. Slowly things change when you stand up for yourself and you stand up for the cause that you feel for. That's the only thing I want to say.
Thank you so much, Riya. That was very beautiful, and I hope everyone who hears it hears the message. And now let's move on to Adam.
Yeah. I have something to say to those who are feeling confused about their gender identity or sexuality. When I was a kid, when I was in my during my teenage, when I was going through my puberty, I felt the same situation. I thought that it is just me who is feeling this way. And I happened to read an article about analsa judgment when I was studying in ninth standard. Then I read about, then I started exploring the word transgender. Then I realized there are many people out there like me in the society. That gave me the realization of my gender. Then I explored my gender identity, and for many people, some instances or some incidents give them the realization of their true identity. And at some point, there are people might be confused, but I would like to say, when it comes to come in terms of gender or sexualities, don't come. You are not ready when your family is ready to accept. You are not ready when you feel like your family is accepting or school is accepting. You are ready whenever you are ready. That like you just come out whenever you are feeling comfortable and confident enough to come out as your come out and show your true identity whenever you are ready to disclose it. And also pay no mind to those people who say no negatives and who are phobic towards us. Just move forward and live your life. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adam. That made a lot of sense. Finally, Anwesh, would you like to share your thoughts on the same?
Yes. First of all, I think I would just like to touch upon what Adam mentioned about the confusion that a lot of us go through. To be very honest, none of us are actually confused. We all know who we are. It's the ecosystem around us which hasn't been designed the right way, which they are the ones who don't understand us. They are the ones who are confused, and they put it on us that you are confused or you are wrong. It's the ecosystem that needs to change and evolve and needs to understand that we are, we can be anything that we wish to be, and we know who we are as individuals. In fact, probably we know ourselves a lot better than you do, because we spend a lot of time understanding and introspecting ourselves, which is why a lot of us go through, very, we become adults much earlier than a lot of, others around us. So just wanted to touch upon that we're not confused. We know who we are. It's the ecosystem that is to be blamed here. And as Riya has very rightly said, that we are here because of all the wonderful folks who have worked and led us to this point. So we have to, first of all, acknowledge the wonderful folks, like Ashok Rao Kavi, Disha Pinky Sheikh, Gauri ji, or Parmesh, Haris, Shushant. These are wonderful folks who have worked really, really tirelessly. Parmesh was talking about inclusion and the money that it can bring in to companies. into 2010 and 11, way before this conversation around inclusion in India even started. So we really need to, appreciate the evangelists that we have, the DNI in evangelists that we have, the activists that we have, who have genuinely worked, in a world where it was not cool to be gay, and have led us to this space where it is okay for us to be LGBTIQA plus, and we are able to celebrate it, through conversations like these. And the message that I would like to send out is the fact that, the person that you see in the mirror is the person that you should love the most, that you should truly embrace, and you should respect the most. You are a dignified individual. Dignity is your fundamental right. Respect is earned. And it's for you to believe that you deserve it. And that's the only way you can work towards an environment where you truly feel like you belong, even if it's a small bubble. I started out with that little community of mine, and that community kept growing exponentially over the years, thanks to laws coming into place. Sometimes I am often asked, is social acceptance, more important than self-acceptance? I always say that, social acceptance or the law, the judiciary, they can always aid the process of self-acceptance. So we can't pick and choose and be like, okay, this has to come before that. It has to go hand in hand now. And a lot of these wonderful things can happen if we truly embrace ourselves and respect ourselves for who we are and fight for our rights, if we can afford to do that. Riya very rightly said that you don't, pressurize yourself to come out in the open and talk about it right away. I was a very, finicky little kid. So I was like, when I got to know about it, I had to speak about this to everyone. I couldn't keep it inside me. But there are, not everybody has the same kind of DNA. Not everybody should have to be an activist. We have to create an ecosystem where people who choose to be an activist get to be an activist, and people who do not want to be activists, they should be able to comfortably live their lives the way they wish to live. So, come out only if you can afford to come out. There's no pressure. Take your time. Do not be impulsive. Do not be impatient. Do not vilify, anyone. Vilification is not going to lead you anywhere. Sometimes I know parents can say a lot of mean things, but at the end of the day, try and, process whatever they're saying with patience, with calm. And, there's light at the end of this tunnel named inclusion and acceptance. So look out for that silver lining. Thank you. And a very happy Pride to all of you.
Thanks a lot, Anwesh. I'm pretty sure what you said touched a lot of hearts listening in today. So, with that, we've now reached the conclusion of our discussion. We'd like to use this opportunity to offer a heartfelt gratitude to all of the panelists who've joined us today. You folks are amazing. It was so lovely to hear your thoughts, words, and stories. We've all learned a lot, and you've all provided us with valuable insights that we will take into our daily lives. We appreciate you taking time out of your hectic schedules to join us today, for being such amazing guests.
And we'd also like to extend a sincere thanks to the entire team behind this initiative. So this team began with 25 to 30 people, and it grew to include students from all 4 years of our college, as well as students from other universities. And in this process, a lot of us tried our best to educate ourselves better, adapt to more gender neutral language, become more sensitive to people's pronouns, and we strove to become better in every way we could. And all of this would not have been possible without the efforts of a team that's been working around the clock for the last 3 months. It's your time, effort, and love that play the biggest part in conducting this, and for that we thank you.
And finally, thank you all for being a part of this wonderful session. And as a reminder, we'd like to reiterate that Pride, one associates with the queer community, doesn't end when June ends. And we will work hard to ensure that every single one of us will strive to be better and expand our horizons continuously, to be more inclusive and open-minded. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. Big love to the team.
Thank you so much, and thank you for putting all the effort that you have. Everybody who was also coordinating. I personally also have been a hard person to coordinate with. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Pride Month. Thank you.